Yeah, so this is session 7, and we want to look at the structure of an academic paper. So I hope you can hear me. I hope you can hear me. If you can hear me, um, just send me a thumbs up. Just send a thumbs up to prove that you can hear me. A thumbs up um, to prove that you can hear me. Okay, Joseph. Yeah, thank you. Joseph says you can hear me clearly. Catherine says she can hear me clearly. Please don't draw on my whiteboard. Don't draw on my whiteboard. Let's just be disciplined so that we are able to allow people to see. Yeah, to allow people to see. Don't use the whiteboard, please. Don't use the whiteboard. So the structure of an academic paper. The structure of an academic paper. So academic papers are not like any other papers. And when we say paper, we are talking about a research work. A paper refers to a scientific work. It can be an article, it can be a chapter, it can be a thesis, it can be a project, it can be an academic book. A paper can even be a grant proposal. So scientific works are called papers. So when you say papers, we're not just talking about any paper. Talking about paper, we are talking about a work that has been researched, a study which is scientific, researched for publication, or it has been published. Yeah. So you don't just write it like a composition. Mostly when we give you an assignment and the lecturer wants a paper, a lecturer is asking for a term paper. A term paper is the smallest scientific work that we need to know how to write at our at present time. So do not just write just some composition and you collect. Don't do that. Ensure that you place it in this format we are going to talk about. So the first part of an academic paper is the title. The title is the first part of an academic paper. It is well crafted and should reflect the main topic and purpose of the paper. It must reflect the purpose of the paper. It must reflect the purpose of the paper, offering insight into the content. For instance, a title in a scientific paper might indicate the study's focus and findings, while a title in the humanities might convey a more interpretive stance. Yeah, but basically it should reflect the main content, of the study. I don't know if I can find some titles for my papers. Let me just see if I can find some titles for my papers. Um, Let me just see if I can find some titles for my papers. Um, Let me see if I can find my Google Scholar page, so that we refer to some. Now, this person who drew is somebody, but who drew something here. I think I will have to stop sharing for now. So, can I get my Google Scholar? Can I get my Google Scholar page? I get my Google Scholar page. I'm looking for my Google Scholar page, and yes, it is here. Yeah, so you can see this is my Google Scholar page. If you can see, again, you can send me thumbs up. If you can see my name up there, you can send me A thumbs up, and send me a thumbs up, a thumbs up, a thumbs up. Yeah, Justin, okay, that's great. Peter, which way? Yes, that's great. Yeah. So, for example, yeah, these are my topics. For example, this is a book, cultural hybridity and fixity, strategies of resistance in migration literatures. So you can see academic titles are quite long. They are quite long. You cannot just use two words. Cannot just use two words because here I'm talking about cultural hybridity and cultural fixity. And these are strategies of resistance in migration literatures. So they are not like novels where you just write the river between. No. Like here now I have to talk about cultural hybridity and cultural fixity. Um, and I must talk about them as strategies of resistance in migration literatures. We have another one here, otherness and marginal spaces, beyond politics and race in contemporary African novels. So they don't have to be hidden. They don't have to have hidden meanings. They don't have to have hidden meanings. In academic writing, we don't hide meanings like novels and all that. We don't hide the meanings like novels and the poems and all that. We just have to write about things that reflect. Like there's a book here. This is a book, postmodern reading of contemporary East African fiction, modernist dream, and the demise of culture. So they are not very short. You can see they're even separated by colons and all that. So when we write, people read and then they cite. So this is what most scholars do when you write scholarly works, they are recognized on Google Scholar. They are placed on Google Scholar, and Google Scholar enables us to be read all over, to be read all over the world. So these are my academic works, and this is where I am read. So so titles. That's how titles are. That is how titles are. They don't have to be hidden. They do not have to be hidden, as in they don't conceal meanings like novels. They don't conceal meanings like novels. They are just direct. They are just direct. Yeah. So a clear and informative title grabs attention and provides a framework for understanding the research. So if it's about cultural fixity and hybridity, that is what the paper is about. That is what the paper is about. And there are strategies of resistance in migration literatures. In migration literatures. Another part of the scientific work is an abstract. So an abstract is basically an executive summary of the study. So before you go into the main body or introduction, you must have a part called an abstract, which is a summary of the whole study. It offers insights into research question, methodology, key findings, and implications of the study. Effective abstract enables readers to quickly determine the relevance of the paper to their interests. So when somebody is now looking for a paper for their study, just by reading the abstract, they are able to know whether this paper is relevant to their topic or not. So different disciplines may have varying expectations for the abstract. For example, scientific abstracts often follow a structured format. A structured format. For example, they want the background, the methods, the results, the conclusions. Sometimes they also want theories. But those in the humanities may adopt a more narrative style. So the humanities may not focus so much on certain things like results, discussions, no. They are more narrative. But when it comes to natural scientists like you people, yeah, then we must have the methods, the results, the discussions, and all that. So, but basically, every scientific paper must have an abstract. And a summary of the whole study, what you intend to do, the problem statement, the methods you will use, the theories you will use, the results, and the conclusions. So that is what we call an abstract. Is mostly between 150 and 250 words. So whenever you want to write a scientific a scientific paper, the publisher will ask you for the abstract. Or part of the proposal, of course. When you're writing a proposal, you must begin with the abstract. And so writing a good abstract is important because it enables the publisher to know whether you are a serious scholar or you are just a joker. When somebody just writes the abstract, you will know whether this is an expert or this is somebody who does not know what they are saying. Then we have the introduction. The third important section is the introduction. It serves several critical functions. It establishes the context for the research topic. So you must give us the context of that research topic, the background of it. If you are talking about psychoanalysis, you must go into the background to show us the different scholars that have talked about psychoanalysis, when it began, and the trajectory that psychoanalysis is taking. If you are talking about Google Meet, you must give us the background of Google Meet. If you are talking about landscaping, you must tell us what landscaping is and the context, background, and then the trajectory that landscaping is taking. So it engages readers by highlighting its significance. So it gives us the significance of that particular topic, and it clearly states the thesis. The thesis is the problem statement. The problem statement is the purpose of the study. What is the purpose of that study? And which gap do you intend to fill? So you must always tell us what you are going to do. So in social sciences, researchers often introduce existing literature to demonstrate gaps that their work aims to fill. So in social sciences, that's what we do. You must show us the gap you are going to fill. But in the introduction, of course, you don't focus so much on the gap because we have literature review. Literature review is the section that will help you to determine the gap you're going to fill. But basically, give us the different trajectories that have been filled in the topic and where you are going. Which direction are you going? Define major terms here. And basically in the introduction also, define the major terms in the topic. For example, if the topic is cultural fixity and cultural and hybridity, define hybridity, define fixity, define migration literatures. So in the introduction, you mostly define the major terms in the topic, the keywords in the topic, and the major the major arguments that exist in that particular topic. Then you have literature review. Another very important part of an academic paper is literature review. So here you analyze research which is relevant to the topic and try to give us the gap. You show us the gap. So in this section is very important. For example, in the social sciences, is the only way you prove the originality of your study. Because if Peter 2017 has said this, and Kariuki 2016 has said this, then what are you saying? What are you saying? And we have what we call empirical studies and theoretical studies. Theoretical studies are those relevant to the theory you are going to use. There are those that are similar to the theory you are going to use. Then empirical studies are those studies that are similar or different from your topic. Similar or different from your topic. And they enable you to establish the gap. So it serves to highlight what has been done and the gaps that exist. Because as I said, in scientific writing, we feel a gap. We're not just going to replicate what others have done. we want to fill a certain gap. The way I said at the beginning, even when you start a successful business, you should fill a gap. Don't just start a business because other people are starting and then you do the same things that other people are doing. When you do that, your business will not succeed. You need to find a business which fills a gap. And that's what we aim at in academic writing. Is there something new you are adding to the scholarship? Is there something new you are adding to the field of study? Or you are just replicating what others have done? So it's a literature review that we determine the originality of the study. We determine the originality of the study. So it's very important. You look at what others have done and see whether you are just repeating what they have done. If something has already been done, leave it and look for something new. And that's why literature review is very important. Before you establish your topic, read very many studies around what has been done. Read many studies around what has been done. Another section is called methodology. Yeah, so method is very important because it determines your results. If the method is poor, then your answer is also wrong. So in modern life, we believe in structures, that for you to achieve something, you must follow certain structures. And these structures are the ones we are calling methodology. So it describes the research design, the data collection methods, and analytical techniques employed in the study. How are you going to analyze the data? Which methods are you going to use to collect your data? Are you going to review documents? Are you going to use experimentation? Or how are you going to collect your data? Then you must have what you call a research design. Yeah? And that is to have qualitative research designs and quantitative research designs. So a clear explanation allows readers to understand how the research was conducted and assess the reliability and validity of the findings. So in science, we believe that when you have a right method, another person can even use that method and get the same results. And that's what we are calling reliability. Can we rely on your method to get the same answers that you got? So that is not just about try and error. It's not just about speculations, but it's about something workable that can be used to attain the same results. So in scientific paper, this section might detail experiments and statistical analysis, while in social sciences, it will discuss qualitative methods such as interviews and surveys. So in the humanities and social sciences, talk about interviews, surveys, and these are the ones we call qualitative research designs. But for you people in the sciences, your methods are very quantitative. They are very quantitative. There are things you can do hands-on and all that. So in the humanities and all that, we have talked about that. So methodology is very important. How are you going to collect the data? How are you going to analyze the data? And what is your research design? Basically, how will you go about it such that someone else can come and use the same methods and we get the same results? Then there is a section called results. So in the results section, you present the findings of the study. So you keep so you now discuss the finding of the study. What did you find? After analyzing the data, what exactly did you find? Yeah, it includes tables, graphs, and figures to illustrate key data points clearly. So in scientific papers, results are frequently presented in a straightforward manner to emphasize clarity and precision. So in natural sciences, there are no winding explanations, there is no ambiguity, everything is stated in precision. In social sciences, results may be followed by descriptive narratives, where you describe the narratives that you analyzed, if it's literature, for example, and so on. So results often take the form of analyzed texts and artifacts, that is in social sciences. But when it comes to social sciences, you have natural sciences, you will have tables, graphs, figures, pie charts, and all that. And so you discuss the results that you found in the study. And then what is the discussion section? We have another section called discussion. It's a very critical sections in academic paper. So the author interprets the results in the light of the problem statement. So you now interpret the results. You went out to analyze the effect of technology on the Gen Z generation. You now look at the results, and then you interpret them. You give us exactly those particular effects of technology on the Gen Z generation. So in this section, you interpret data in light of the problem statement. If you went out to find the causes of poor performance among students, among university students, then you interpret using the theories. You now interpret, that particular those particular results. You interpret the results in the light of the problem statement. So in social sciences, discussions may include reflection on the methodologies used and their effectiveness. In the humanities, this section might delve into broader cultural and philosophical implications of the analysis and all that. But we have said in the discussion section, you now interpret the results in the light of the problem statement. Yeah, in the light of the problem statement. Then you have a conclusion section. So it summarizes the paper's main points and reiterates the significance of the research. So it often revisits the thesis in the light of the findings. So what did you go out to look for, and what did you find? They may suggest avenues for future research. So you now suggest even areas for future research, highlighting how ongoing inquiries can build upon the current study. So the conclusion aims to provide a cohesive end of the paper. So have you achieved your objectives? So if you had 3 objectives, you try to see whether you have achieved them. You try to see whether you have achieved them in this particular section, and so on, and so on. So that is the conclusion. Then we have a reference section. You cannot have an academic paper without references. When I just look at your paper, in fact, sometimes the first thing I do, I just go to the reference section. I scroll to the last page. If you don't have a place called references, that is not an academic paper. You have just written your composition for Form 1, Form 2, and Form 3. At your level, we don't want compositions. When you give your assignments, we want you to go and research. Then you have, okay, maybe because you are undergraduate, we may not really want you to write the abstract, but we want an introduction. We want a good main body where you have gone and researched. As you discuss, you have in-text citations. You have in-text citations in the main body. You can have some discussion, and then ensure you have a conclusion and a reference section. You show us the works you have referred to in your paper. So reference mostly is used to acknowledge the people you have cited from, to prove to the lecturer that you have not stolen people's ideas. So one way of protecting yourself from plagiarism is by having a reference. If you have borrowed an idea from Kariuki 2022 or Wafula 2025, you acknowledge that particular person in the essay, and then you give the source in the reference section. You give the source in the reference section. And the documentation style is either APA, American Psychological Association, or a Modern Languages Association, or a Chicago style. So there are different types of documentation styles. I think very soon we will look at those documentation styles. So sure, you have a section where you list all the works cited from, and that's what we call the references. So when a lecturer gives you a term paper is the smallest scholarly work. A term paper is the smallest scholarly work written by undergraduate students to document assignments, So when we give you a term paper, we want you to have a reference section to acknowledge the sources you have cited from. So different disciplines may have varying citation practices. For instance, the humanities place significant emphasis on primary sources, while scientific papers focus on recent and relevant journal articles. So when it comes to you people in the sciences, they want currency. They want current articles, but always ensure you acknowledge the work cited from, on the last page, and you call it references. You call them references. And most journals are very keen on references because they show the documentation style, and they also show that you have not stolen people's ideas, that when you borrow people's ideas, you acknowledge. And this is part of intellectual honesty. It's part of intellectual honesty. Then appendices. Appendices section is a supplementary. It has supplementary material that supports the main text. But it is too lengthy to include within. For example, if you want to cite some material from WhatsApp, yeah, like some of us in media studies and literature, somebody may want to use even in psychology. Maybe your study is based on the behavior of people on WhatsApp and Facebook. So people have written very long text. So you don't need to cite all of them inside the essay. You can just quote a bit, like 2 lines. But then, if a researcher or if a reader wants to refer to those texts at length, you give them an appendix at the back there, where you now, place all the text from WhatsApp. Even interviews, if you have done interviews and people have spoken at length, you have material of 20, you can have even 20 pages, just interviews. So you cite a bit, and then the rest of the material, you place them at the appendix. So at the appendix, if somebody wants to read all the interviews, you can now refer them to, can say appendix what? Appendix 5, and there you place all the interviews at the back there. There are some photos you want to refer to for your research. You don't need to cite all of them inside the body. So supplementary material is placed at the appendix, at the back of the book or at the back of the paper, for those who want to do further reading. Yeah, so there are variations across disciplines. While the aforementioned components are common across many academic disciplines, there are variations that exist. For example, in the sciences, they emphasize empirical research with rigorous methodologies and a clear structure for presenting results and discussions. So, like the above format that I've just presented, it's mostly for the empirical or natural sciences. Talk about actual science, talk about um, you talk about most of the disciplines you are doing, software engineering, talking about chemistry, physics, those are called empirical sciences, and they want very rigorous research. That's where now you must have the abstract, you must have the results, the discussions, you must have all those sections you have talked about. But in the humanities, we don't need to have graphs. In the social sciences, there are actually qualitative methods. Because you can have even reviews, you just review, you can just read texts and compare. So the humanities are very, very theoretical, and they don't need like a lot they don't have quantitative methods, for example. Like questionnaires are rarely used, but people have been, of course, been complaining about that, and they feel that they make humanities to be moribund, to be a bit passive. So there have been complaints that there's like now with the computer criticism, people are now saying, in fact, computers should now be used in analysis of literary texts. they analyze and even draw graphs. So it's like even the humanities like literature, there are those who feel that they should move towards quantitative methods where analysis can be done and we can have graphs and all that, but it's still a debate going on. So as we speak now, most humanities use qualitative methods, interviews, textual analysis, or what we call document reviews, and all that. But in the natural sciences, the methodology is very rigorous. And in fact, in natural sciences, where most of you belong, do not use materials which are older than 5 years. When you are writing your term papers, always go for materials that are not older than uh, 5 years. And the methodology must be stated clearly and in precision. So we have variations, and that is what I've just explained. Then there's something called interrelationships of components of an academic paper. So when you write an academic paper, there must be a relationship between the different parts, the title, the abstract, and then the introduction, literature review, methodology, results, and conclusion must be related. Must be related. For example, I've just said the title presents key concepts, key variables to be discussed in the study. So when you're writing the introduction must explain the key terms in the title. You see that? And that means there is a correlation, there is coherence between the title and the introduction. And then the abstract must be related to the study because it tells us the thesis of the study, the methodology in the study, the theory in the study. It tells us even some conclusions in the study, you see. So that means there is a nexus between, or the connection between the abstract and the whole study. Because the abstract actually comments on the major aspects of the study. Then when it comes to the introduction tells us the key terms in the topic. You see that? And then when you now come to literature review is also related to the topic because it gives us the context, it gives us those studies that are related to the topic and those studies that are not related to the topic to establish the gap. So you can see again, there is a connection between the literature review and the topic. This is what we are calling interrelationships among the components. And then the methodology tells us the approaches you are going to use to get the results. And so that means methodology and results are connected, and methodology is also about the topic. There is no way a method should be juxtaposed. A method should not oppose what the topic is about. The method should be connected to the topic. If the topic is talking about why students perform poorly, and you are using a questionnaire, you see, that questionnaire must be given to the students to explain why they perform poorly. If it's an interview, so don't use a method, that is contrary to what the topic is about. And this is what we are calling interrelationships. Last time I talked about a system. Research is a system. Everything from the topic, the abstract, the method, the theory must be interconnected. It is a system that moves. It's just like a car. The engine, everything must be made in a certain way such that things are correlated. And this is modernism. Modernism is ruled by science. Without proper reasoning, without proper planning, without rationality, you cannot succeed in a modern society because we believe structures must be followed. So research is also assisting. There must be, coherence, interrelationship between the different components of a research paper. And I think I have also talked about this in the previous lectures. Eh? You cannot be talking about why students perform poorly in the title, and then in the introduction, you are talking about why there is a lot of theft in Nairobi. What is the relationship between the introduction then and the topic? So even when you are looking at a paper, like if you are given a paper to review, like most of you have friends who read your paper, discuss among yourselves and just look at those interrelationships and advise each other. It cannot be that the topic is on why students of actual science are not doing well in a certain unit, and then the introduction is talking about causes of a lot of theft around Muranga University of Technology. Yeah, that illogicality, that illogicality is a red flag. So when you are even reviewing, look at the interrelationships between or among different components of a scientific paper. Because here, this is science and things must be done in an orderly way. Illogicalities, contradictions, absurdities are not allowed in scientific writing. Things must be logical. So there must be, relationships. There must be coherence between the different parts of an academic paper. There must be coherence between the different parts of an academic paper. Yes. And that's the end of my lecture. That's the end of my lecture. Any question? If I I don't know if I can get one just before we go. I don't know if I can just look at one of my papers so that I just in 3 minutes I just show you. There's one of my papers which I published in China, and they were really excited about the scientific nature of, although it is a literature, but this publisher really wanted a scientific format. He did not want an essay. He wanted a scientific format. And that's why I told you, even literature is shifting. You find some people, some people really want uh, the what? They want scientific formats. They want scientific formats. Let me see if I can just get one. So as I look for it, if you have any question, you can just write in the chat. You can just write in the chat. So let me just share. Let me just share this so that just one of my papers I published last year. Um, yeah, so if you can see it again, you can single and multiple melodies, a comparative reading of traditional. If you can see it, let me see thumbs up. Let me see thumbs up if you can see this paper here. Let me see a thumbs up. Let me see a thumbs up if you can see this paper. Um, Okay, Lesinia and others. Okay. Um, yeah, so mostly when we write papers, scientific papers, like this one, I collaborated with my colleague from Kenyatta University. And then you can see, let's just you can see the abstract. That's the abstract. This article juxtaposes traditional and contemporary East African feminist narratives. So you can see, you tell us the purpose of the paper, and that's called the thesis statement. You begin with the thesis statement, and you tell us exactly what the paper is about. So that's the abstract. Then the abstract ends with the keywords. And then some of them want you to give them a short bios, then introduction. You see, Peter writers in East Africa grapple with many issues that prompt them to adopt a confrontational style to defend the marginalized groups, such as women and all that. So in this introduction, I must talk about the multiple, the simple and multiple. Yeah, so the topic is the single and multiple melodies. So I must talk about the single and multiple melodies. I must talk about traditional and contemporary feminist writing. So then that's the introduction. You write an introduction. So maybe I'll share with you so that you read. Then after introduction, um, let's see the format. Yeah, literature review. You can see it's now literature review. The focus of this review is analysis of critical works on the primary texts to locate the gap of the study. But in this literature review also, I must also talk about theoretical review, the major theory I'm going to use. The major theory I'm going to use. Critics have appraised Western feminist writers and all that. Literary critics have also considered feminist writers in East Africa as the champions of the right. So that is now the feminist theory. Um, then theoretical framework. Theory is very important. Even in you people in the natural sciences, you must tell us the theory you are going to use in analyzing your data. So, and that's what we call theoretical review, of course. And here we can see monologism and all that. Then after that, materials and methods. This is also used in fact, in humanities, we don't use materials and methods. But this one, I picked something from the natural sciences. That's why I'm using it, because you people are in the natural sciences. Don't forget materials and methods. Which method are you going to use? You see, inclusion criteria, exclusion criteria. How are you going to exclude? Which criteria are you using to enable your collection of data? And then data analysis and interpretation. So we don't just write them like compositions. This is a scientific paper. Discussion and results. Discussion and results. And then we come here after discussion and results. We have what we call there is even another one I wrote, but I don't know if I can get that one. But this is a published one. So discussion and results, then you continue like that. I don't know if I can get that one. So after discussion and results, what do we have? Conclusion. After conclusion, works cited. Now, works cited is for MLA, Modern Languages Association, but APA, American Psychological Association, we call it references. We call this list references. So for you to know this is a scientific paper, this is one of the ways. Anybody you have cited, you must acknowledge. You must acknowledge that you have cited from these people. And some of it is theoretical review, and others it's empirical review. You must have a list. And this list is actually a sign that this is a scientific work. I don't know if I can, there is one I received yesterday. We are writing a book on artificial intelligence and how it affects different fields of knowledge, different fields of knowledge. and I received a paper from one of my colleagues. I don't know if I can find it. I just want us to see real papers so that we don't just remain theoretical. When a lecturer says write a term paper, please do not just write a composition and collect. At university level, we are not just interested in those compositions. At university level, we are not just interested in those compositions. Scientific paper, you must ensure that you do what? You research and acknowledge sources. You research and acknowledge sources. Is something I'm looking for. I know we are finishing, but this is just a short demonstration. Be patient a bit. Just be patient a bit. This is with this. It's just a paper. Yeah, so let me just show you the last one, and then we go. Yeah, so this is another one that we are working on at present. We are working on at present. So for example, you can see again, this is the abstract, although it is not written, but this is the abstract. And then you must have keywords after writing the abstract. Of course, the topic is the first thing. You must have a topic, yeah? The non-human literary criticism, algorithmic reading of Francis Mbuga's The Green Cross of Kafira. So you must have, and the abstract, of course, yeah, you must have methods, the statement problem, and all that. You can see we will deploy narrative research to analyze data from primary and secondary texts. The study will be anchored in two strands of computational criticism, you see? So the theory must be settled. The chapter examines the merits and demerits of machine reading with the reference to Francis Mbuga's The Green Cross of Kafira. Using selected algorithms, the study examines the impact of AI on literary criticism, you see? So, and the abstract is always written in the present tense. You only use past tense on methodology, yeah? Methodology, you can change the tense, but when it comes to all other things, yeah, then the introduction. So introduction must talk about major elements in the word, major elements in the title. So then theoretical framework. Theory is very important. Which theory are you going to use? Yeah. So you can see now, this is now an example of humanities. Instead of discussion, he now says he just creates a topic. And that's why we said in the humanities, the methodology is very narrative, very narrative. So there is nothing like discussion. He just looks for a creative subheading, and then he starts discussing what he found. So humanities are a bit different. Again, if you follow very scientific methods, nobody will read your paper in the humanities, because humanities and social sciences, humanities always want to be different. They call themselves liberal arts, and so they will want to be a bit unique and unconventional. You see, just using topics to talk about results. Instead of writing results, they just use what? Important subheadings. So in the humanities, for you to be very successful, we need to be a bit very good in the language, very good in language. But for you in the natural sciences, you must be very logical and precise in in depiction of results. So because of computer criticism, you can see now the way it's discussing results. Yeah, because of computer criticism, we are even using now is using graphs, and graphs and images to present results. And this is because of computer criticism. There are some applications that analyze works of art, and this is what we are likely, if literature becomes very scientific, this is what we are likely to end up with maps. So lecturers will be interpreting maps related to literary texts because of computer criticism and all that, because of machine reading. Otherwise, such analyses are not allowed in the humanities, especially in literature and languages, especially in literature. But because of the the change, because of machine reading, we are now going to end up with such things, with such things. Yeah. Imagine this is scene 2, act 2 of Imbuga's book, and you can see what the machine is going to give us to analyze themes and all that. Then we have conclusion, and then as usual, we must have the references. We must have the references. So this is what we have cited from. This is what we have cited from, all these sources. We must acknowledge that these ideas are not ours. We have taken some ideas for literature review, some ideas or whatever from whatever sources or for whatever reason, to ensure that our paper is complete. Yes. So let me see if there is any question. Have people posted any question? Is it a must to have the name of the person and address? Also biography of the writer. Now, biography is when that is funny. Biography is when you are taking the paper for publication. Every publisher will ask for your biography because you have a right to your ideas. And you can just write a paper and it attracts a lot. It becomes it goes viral. You can write a paper and it goes viral. Some people have written papers and these papers have established theories. There's a lady called Chandra Mohanty from Iran. She wrote a paper in 1984, and the paper went viral. She became a celebrity because the paper questioned radical feminism. For the first time, nobody had ever questioned Western feminism. Yeah, and that's why most publishers, when they accept your work for publication, they will always ask for your biography. And remember, writing is meant for posterity. Don't think that when you write something and you publish, most of those works will outlive you. And that's why we need your biography. Even if you die now, people will continue reading your works even after you have died. And that's why when you are publishing your work, publishers will ask for your biography. They give you they request for a biography of a number. They specify the number of words. Some of them will ask for 500 words. Others will ask for 200 words. So biography is when you are sending your paper for, when your paper has been accepted for publication. You must present your biography to the publisher. The name of the person, yes, your full name must be there. Your full name must be there. But for our assignments, no, you don't write your biography. But your full name and the registration number, you must have your full name and registration number. That is Spanish. Yeah, those are the questions I need as we wind up. Those are the questions I need as we wind up. Any other question? And how many are we today? Ensure you sign the attendance. Today, like people have not been very, 77 participants. That is a good number, but I think if actuarial science is here, then it means, because actuarial science alone, there are 79. So there's another group which is not attending. There are people who are not attending. And you see, like this section on interrelationships between different components of academic paper. The time it was set and people performed very poorly. That's why you need to listen to lectures, because there are some things I'll explain. And some of these things, I have also done them practically. I'm also a reviewer. I review papers for publishers. And I know these are things I do practically. So don't ignore lectures. When you find a question like that one on interrelationships, and you have not understood it, it will be very hard for you. It will be very hard for you. So ensure you attend lectures so that we explain these things for you. What are the common mistakes students make in referencing? Now, some of the mistakes is that they don't know the rules of referencing styles. I think come next week, Madam Ruguru will lead us in that. That's information literacy, but also be there to also guide you in referencing styles. Then in the next topic, we will now show you how APA is used. Like mostly in APA, you just use the name, the surname of the author and the initial. So you say, for example, Kariuki K, and then you put the year in bracket. And then the title of the book is italicized. And then you write what? You write the publisher. Now, even the punctuation, the whole process, most students don't know how to do it. And after we teach you next week, yeah, you need to practice. I should see people practicing even on the WhatsApp group, so that they learn how to 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 to, to place or to punctuate. To punctuate, use in APA. So those are some of the mistakes. And then others, when they are quoting, they quote full paragraphs. Now, you are not allowed to quote full paragraphs of more than 40 words. You just copy paste almost a full page from the word, from the source. When you do that, you are actually trying to plagiarize. Basically, don't quote more than 40 words. Don't quote more than 40 words when you are quoting. There's a method called indentation, where you center the words you are quoting in your essay. Don't quote more than 40 words. So most students don't know how to paraphrase. You should read somebody's idea and then you paraphrase in your own words. Another problem is over-reliance on artificial intelligence. You just want the machine to do everything for you and you copy paste. That is also a mistake. Artificial intelligence can help you, but you should pick the ideas from artificial intelligence and then use your own words. Because again, if you rely on AI, you will be caught. There are some publishers who don't want you to over rely on AI. Machines can help us to make work easier, but you should not allow AI to think for us everything. Wacha ikusaidie tu, alafu chukua maneno yake, and then you do what? You paraphrase. You use your own words. So how long does it take to write an academic paper? Now it depends on the writer. Like personally, when I write an article, I don't take more than 1 week. I make sure, because if I overstay, I will forget the flow of thought. Again, if you write in one day, it will compromise the quality. you'll end up hurrying, and then you will compromise the quality. But again, if you take 1 month to write 5,000 words, that long break will destroy the flow of thought. So again, if you want to be a very effective writer, you should be very persistent. Once you have started an idea, keep at it until you finish. Otherwise, if you postpone for very long, you will lose the flow of thought, and you lose that flow of thought. You'll also lose enthusiasm, because again, an idea becomes very interesting when after you have just birthed it, after it is born in your mind. But if you give it a long break, you will lose it. Even an academic book, if you write an academic book, ensure that you don't take more than 5 months. If you give it a long break, again, you will lose the flow of thought, and you lose interest. You lose interest. So you stick at it, you persist until you finish. That is now what is Oppo? These are the things I discourage. So Opoleno, is that really your name? Should the abstract be written in the present tense? Yes. Except maybe the methodology, when you are now saying, I utilized this method because an abstract paper is written after the end of a research. So the methodology can be in the past tense, but the rest should be in the present tense. Those are very, 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 very good questions. Yeah, I like your questions. And again, people today are behaving very well. Are behaving very well. I like this. Yeah, and when you ask questions like this, it shows that you have listened to the lecture, and you are following. Yes. So this is a very, very important lesson. And after this, maybe some of you, you can even come up with some. We can come up with some papers, and you can share with me on WhatsApp group. I look at them. Just a few groups. You can just have like if you can have 7 groups, and you write some seven papers, share on the WhatsApp group, and then I can also look at them and give you some feedback. Know that from today, when a lecturer gives you an assignment to go and research, please, he is asking for a term paper. A term paper is the smallest academic paper, which is written by undergraduate students. A university is a center of research. That is how we define a university. A university is not just a place where you go for your career. No, careers can be studied even in mid-colleges. The difference between you and somebody who has gone for a diploma college, is that you know how to research and how to present academic papers. And that one gives you an upper hand because you can end up in research fields. You can work with NGOs, write grant proposals. A proposal is an academic paper where you propose your topic. You go and propose your topic. You explain your intention. A proposal is a statement of intent that this is the study I want to carry out. And then senior researchers will listen to you and accept it or reject it. Or they give you advice. So university is a center of research. In Kenya, people just think that universities are places where you go to study for your career. No. In university, we learn how to research, to get new ideas, to bring innovation and progress in the society. So you need to know how to write a scientific paper. An academic paper is a scientific paper, and it can be a proposal, a grant proposal. It can just be an academic proposal. It can be an academic book. Yeah, it can be. Yeah. So there are new ideas. When you get new ideas and you want to push them to bring change in the society, you must write a proposal. So a proposal is an academic paper. Mtu akiambia andika proposal from now, know that always go for the format of an academic, an academic paper. And at the end, a thesis is a report. You are now going to give a report of your findings in the field. Yeah, yeah. You go to the results. How do you analyze them? And what are the results of your research? None. So I hope you are getting it better now. So a university is defined as a center of research. And that's why it's important for you to learn. From today, the issue of writing compositions and taking them to lecturers, we are not interested in compositions. That is high school, it is history now. We are supposed to research. You find somebody even at a master's, they cannot write a term paper. In fact, I told some of them, you need to listen to academic writing lectures. Because you cannot just write a composition, give a lecturer at master's level. No, that is serious. If at first year people are supposed to write academic papers, why should somebody do that at master's level? Yes. Irungu umeandika tu yes, sijui unamaanisha nini? Can you just see yes? If there is no other question, then I wish to end my lecture there. Let's continue doing the activities. I'm going to open the next session for you. Let's continue and ensure you have some notes. The exam is coming and it's likely to be face-to-face. The exam is going to be face-to-face. So ensure you have some notes for revision. And I told you last year there was a question on interrelationships. Students performed very poorly. That last section that I've just explained. Students performed, they could not see the relationships between the abstract and the topic, the topic and the literature review, and so those different sections, they cohere, they work together. So ensure that you have gotten the concept so that to assist you in your revision. Because in revision is not just about cramming, you need to be able to explain and because of understanding the content. Thank you for attending. Ensure that you sign the attendance before 12. After 12, you will not be able to sign the attendance. Thank you for attending and have a great day.